Welcome to the Complete Mastery course. Whether you're just getting started or looking to take your skills to the next level, this comprehensive 1 hour and 53-minute course has everything you need. I've combined 4 of my most essential videos into one complete learning journey that will take you from absolute beginner to advanced user. No more jumping between different tutorials or wondering what to watch next. Everything is right here in the perfect sequence. We'll start with the fundamentals, making sure you have a solid foundation, then progressively build your skills through practical examples and real-world applications. By the end of this course, you'll have the confidence and knowledge to tackle even the most challenging projects. So grab your notebook, get comfortable, and let's dive in. If you find this helpful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more in-depth content. Let's get started. If you think AI automation is too complicated, think again. In the next 15 minutes, I'll walk you through a fun and practical AI workflow, step by step, and best of all, it's completely free. By the end of this video, you'll officially be an automator. What is n8n? Think of it like digital Lego. You can snap together apps like Google Sheets, Discord, and ChatGPT to build powerful workflows, all without writing a single line of code. All right, first big question. What do you need? And where do you start? The answer's simple. You just need a web browser and n8n. It offers a free tier that's perfect for getting started. And if you're feeling a bit more adventurous, you can even self-host it and run it completely free. All right, scroll down to the description below this video. You'll find a link to the n8n page. That'll take you to the official website. Once you're there, click the Get Started for Free button. Easy. The site might ask you a few questions to help customize your experience. Just click through them. And boom, you'll land inside your brand new n8n instance. Let the fun begin. On your dashboard, you'll see 3 tabs: Workflows, Credentials, and Executions. As you start building, these will begin to fill up. But for now, they're empty, and that's totally normal. Now, look to the left. You'll see the settings. Click on the 3 dots to open them up. Here, you can configure your preferences. Personally, I'm a fan of dark mode, so I'm switching mine over. Once you've adjusted your settings, just fill in any info if needed, click Save, and then hit Back to exit out of the settings. From here, you can choose to either start from scratch or try out a simple AI agent example. For now, we're going to start from scratch. So go ahead and click that option. It'll open up a brand new, blank workflow canvas, ready for action. All right, when you first open your workspace, let's call it your canvas, you'll notice a few key areas. On the left, there's a menu bar with various tools. As we move through the course, we'll explore each of these sections in detail. At the top, you'll find 3 buttons related to execution and evaluation. We'll get into those shortly. Now, over on the right-hand side, there's the most important button of all, the Save button. Be sure to save regularly as you work. Trust me, it's a lifesaver. In the center of the canvas, you'll see a big plus button. There's another smaller one in the top right corner. Both are used to add new nodes to your canvas. Let's go ahead and build a simple workflow so you can see how this all works. The first thing we need is a trigger, something that starts the workflow. Click the plus sign, either in the center or top corner. This will open a toolbar with a wide selection of built-in nodes. The search bar at the top is super handy for finding what you need quickly. Type Manual into the search bar and look for the manual trigger. Click on it, and you'll see the node appear right on your canvas. Just like that, you're already building. Now you'll notice this orange Execute Workflow button has appeared. When you click it, n8n will automatically detect your workflow's trigger node and run the workflow from there. If you hover over the button, you'll also see a tooltip saying Execute Workflow. Yep, you can click that too to start things off. Every node you add comes with 4 handy icons. This first one executes just that specific node. The second one toggles the node on or off. The third one deletes the node from your workspace. And the 3 dots? Those open up more advanced options for that particular node. All right, let's add another node. A new way to do that is by clicking this little plus sign right here. Now, go ahead and type Set in the search bar and look for the Edit Fields node, also called the Set node, and click on it. What this node does is pretty straightforward. It allows you to manually set values. Let's pause for a moment and talk about how working with nodes is structured. If you take a closer look at the screen, you'll see it's divided into 3 sections: the left side, the middle, and the right side. You can think of these as your input, your configuration, and your output. Data flows in from the previous node on the left. In the middle section, you make your changes. This is where you configure the node. And finally, the right side shows the output, or the result of those changes. So to get started, click on this block here to add a field. Don't worry about trying to understand every single detail right now. We'll cover it all as we go through the course. For now, let's focus on the basics: how to set a value using the set node. When you add a field, you'll need to give it a name, a type, and a value. Types can be things like numbers, booleans, true or false, arrays, or objects. But for now, we'll keep it simple and use a string. Let's say we want to track someone's mood. We'll name the field mood, set the type to string, and give it the value happy. So what we've just done is define a string field called mood with the value happy. While we're at it, let's rename this node to something meaningful. Naming your nodes helps keep things organized. Let's call it set mood. Now click the execute button. You'll notice there was no input data, nothing coming into the node. But in the middle section, we set a value, and the output shows up on the right. Mood equals happy. You can view this output in 3 different formats: schema, table, and JSON. And when you're ready to return to your workflow, just click up here, or use the back arrow to go back to your canvas. Down here on the left, you'll see 4 buttons. The first one centers your workflow right in the middle of the screen, like snapping your artboard back into place. Next up, you've got the zoom in and zoom out buttons to adjust your view. The Reset Zoom button brings everything back to its original scale. And this last one is pretty handy. It's the Tidy Up Nodes button. Clicking it will neatly arrange your nodes so your workflow looks nice and organized. You can move individual nodes by clicking and dragging them. Or, if you want to move the entire canvas, click and hold the middle mouse button while dragging. All right, let's go ahead and reset the view, center everything, and don't forget to click Save. All right, so far in our workflow, we've added a trigger to start things off, and we've set the mood. Now, let's add a way to test the mood, basically to check if the user is in a good or bad mood. Click the plus button again and type if, then select the if node. Just like before, you'll see the familiar layout: left for input, middle for configuration, and right for output. We want to check if the mood is equal to a certain value. In the middle section, you'll see options to set the condition. Choose the type. We're working with a string here, and then a value to compare against. To bring in the mood value from the previous node, make sure you're in Schema View. Then simply click and drag the mood field into the condition box. That'll automatically fill in the correct reference. Now let's say we want to test if the mood is equal to happy. Type in happy. Click Execute, and you'll see the result. If the mood is indeed happy, the true branch will light up. If not, the false branch will. Try changing the condition to sad and execute again. You'll notice that now the true branch is empty and the false branch contains the output. Switch it back to happy, hit execute, and we're back to true. So now your if node has 2 paths, one for when the condition is true and another for when it's false. You can now set different actions depending on the user's mood. Let's start with the true path. So when the mood comes in as happy, we test it. And if the condition is true, we want to follow that path and do something positive. Click the plus sign to add a new node, then select another set node. We're going to output a message here. Create a new field, name it message, and for the value, type something like, "That's great. Keep smiling." Now rename this node to something meaningful. Let's call it good path. When you execute this node, you'll see that if the mood is happy and this path is followed, the output will include a message with the value. "That's great. Keep smiling." Now let's handle the false path, for when the mood isn't happy. Add another set node, create a message field, and this time enter. Hang in there. Better days are coming soon. Now both paths are set up to respond with a message based on the mood. Next, we're going to bring the two paths back together using a merge node. Click the plus sign, search for merge, and add the merge node to your workflow. You can leave all the settings at their default for now. Now, connect the good path node to input 1 and the sad path node to input 2 on the merge node. This way, no matter which branch the if node follows, true or false, the result will flow back into a single path through the merge. Once that's done, let's take things a step further and add a bit of logic. Click the plus sign again, search for code, and add the code node. This is a special kind of node that allows you to write custom JavaScript. It's super useful when you want to make decisions, process data, or just have a bit more control over what happens next. Highlight all of this code and delete it. Then pause the video and type in the new code. What this does is it returns a JSON object. Inside that object, there's a final message. That message is based on the input from the previous node. And to that, we're adding a little extra, message crafted by your n8n workflow. Once you've got that in place, go ahead and click Execute. Congratulations! Your first worker ran end-to-end. On the left-hand side, you can see the message that came in from the decision node. That's great. Keep smiling. On the right-hand side, it took that message and added a new bit to the end of it. Now let's click out of this view and then hit the orange button at the bottom to execute the full workflow. Just a quick cleanup. Make sure everything looks tidy, and don't forget to hit save. Alright, now let's put our logic to the test. Head into the Set Mood node and change the value to sad. Then click out of that and run the workflow again. There you go. You'll see it followed the false path after the F node and took the alternate route. Now, open up the code node and take a look at the message. Incredible job! You just built a real AI automation. And this is only the beginning. To keep leveling up and learn how to build even more powerful workflows, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon. In the next video of our Bootcamp series, I'm revealing the 5 essential n8n nodes you absolutely need to know. Don't miss it. In the last video, you built your first automation. Nice work! Now how do you go from that to building anything you can imagine? It all comes down to mastering these 5 essential nodes. Stick with me, and I'll walk you through the complete toolkit. Alright, the first node we're going to look at is the Schedule node. To add it to the canvas, just click the plus sign and search for Schedule. Once it's open, you'll see an option on the left-hand side to set the interval. Let's say we want it to run every 20 minutes. Just select minutes and enter 20. That means this node will trigger every 20 minutes like clockwork. One important thing to note. The Schedule node only works when your workflow is in active mode. So after you've tested everything by clicking Execute, make sure to activate the workflow like this. Otherwise, the schedule won't do anything. Next up is the If node. Let's go ahead and add one to the canvas. In the settings, you'll notice you can configure a single or multiple condition. Here's how it works. Value 1 is the thing you want to check. Then you choose how you want to compare it, like equals, contains, greater than, etc., and value 2 is what you're testing against. To show this in action, let's add a set node, just like we did back in lesson 1. Let's add a parameter called x and set its value to 100, also make it a number. Now, back in the if node, we're going to create a positive test. We want to check if the number is greater than 50, but less than 120. To do this, we will need 2 conditions. Go ahead and set up those 2 conditions, as I do here. Now, when I click the Execute button, you'll see that the true branch is triggered, because 100 is indeed greater than 50 and less than 120. You can also stack these conditions to build more complex decision-making logic. It's like giving your workflow a little brain power. Now let's head back to the set node. We also worked with this back in lesson 1. It's a super handy node for setting constant values. Whatever you define here will remain the same throughout the workflow. So in our case, where we set x equals 100, that value won't change unless you explicitly update it somewhere else. I often use this to set things like bearer tokens or any other fixed values that shouldn't change. It's great for testing. Before I start using the input form node, I rely on set nodes to test my logic and workflows. It's a simple but powerful tool. Quick tip: if you want to jump between nodes quickly, just move your mouse to the left or right edge of the screen. A little node icon will pop up. Click on it, and boom, you're right there. Super useful for navigating big workflows. As you're working, you'll probably run into some errors, and that's totally normal, so don't panic. It happens to all of us. Just take a moment to read the error message carefully. It usually points you in the right direction. For example, here I forgot to set the y parameter to number, and that's what caused the issue. Easy fix once you spot it. Alright, let's clean up the canvas. Go ahead and delete the existing nodes, but keep the manual trigger in place. Now we're diving into something a bit more advanced. One of the most powerful nodes in n8n, in my opinion, is the HTTP node. So click the plus sign, search for HTTP, and add it to your canvas. Let's make some magic happen. So far, we've used nodes that have a specific purpose, like the weather node. But what if you want to get data from a service that doesn't have its own fancy node? A stock price website, a movie database, a site with random dad jokes? That's where the HTTP request node comes in. A GET request is exactly what it sounds like. We are getting information from a server. It's like typing a web address into your browser and hitting enter. So, to do that, we need a URL. We're going to use a fun, free, public API called the Dad Joke API. You don't need a key or anything. Open a browser tab and navigate to icanhasdadjoke.com/API. Here you can see their instructions. It's super simple. They tell us if we want a random joke, we just need to send a GET request to icanhasdadjoke.com. Perfect. So in the URL field of our node, we'll type the URL. Now, the API documentation said we need to tell the server what kind of response we want. We want a simple text response, which is called JSON. So we go down to headers. This is like putting special instructions on our request. Click Add Header. In the name field, we'll type accept. And in the value field, we'll type application/JSON. You're literally just telling the server, please give me the data in a clean JSON format. And that's it. Let's hit Execute Node. And look at that. We have our data. We have an ID, we have the status, and right here, we have our joke. How cool is that? You just used a professional-grade tool to pull data from a random corner of the internet. That's all the HTTP request node is. Now, very quickly, the only other method you'll use a lot is POST. If GET is for getting data, POST is for sending or creating data. You might post a new message to Discord, or post a new row to a Google Sheet. It's the same idea, you just put the data you're sending in the body section here. We'll do that in a future project. Okay, this is the moment you've been waiting for. We've learned how to schedule things, how to make decisions, and how to grab data from anywhere on the internet with the HTTP request node. Now, we're going to add a brain to our workflow. We're going to use the AI agent node, and this is where you can connect powerful models like ChatGPT directly into your automations. Let's find the AI agent node and drag it onto our canvas. I'll connect the Dad Joke node to it. Now, when we click on it, we see a few options. The most important one is Model. This is where we tell n8n which AI we want to use. We'll choose OpenAI for this. But you'll see a new field appear, Credential. This is where we need to put our API key. Okay, quick pause. API key sounds technical, but I promise it's simple. An API key is just like a library card. A library has tons of valuable books, or in this case, AI power. To borrow a book, you need to show your library card. It proves who you are and lets the library keep track of what's being used. An API key does the exact same thing. It proves to OpenAI that it's you making the request and allows them to track your usage. It's just a way to securely connect your n8n to your OpenAI account. So let's get our library card. As always, you can check the description down below. I've added links to everything you'll need. Just follow the link and it'll take you straight to the OpenAI page. Once you're logged into your account, head to the top right corner next to your profile picture and click on the settings icon. On the left-hand side, click on API keys. This will open a page showing your keys, though if it's your first time, you won't see any listed yet. Now, just click on Create New Secret Key. Give it a name you will recognize and create it. Now, for the most important part, treat this key like a password. Do not share it or show it publicly. Once you create it, copy it immediately and save it somewhere safe, like a password manager. For security, OpenAI won't show you the full key again after you close this window. Now that we have our key back in n8n, we'll click on Credential and Create New. We'll paste our secret key in here and hit Save. Just like that, our n8n is now connected to the power of ChatGPT. Okay, for the grand finale of this lesson, let's make the AI do something fun. In the prompt box, we're going to give it an instruction. Let's say, take the following dad joke and rewrite it to sound like a very serious, profound quote from a wise philosopher. Then, right after that, we need to give it the joke. We'll use the expression editor to grab the joke from our previous node. Perfect. Our prompt is ready. Let's hit Execute node. And there we have it. It took our silly dad joke and turned it into... As the inexorable march of time unfolds, one cannot help but reflect upon the companions who have traversed the path of life yet departed before the journey's end. In this contemplation, one might ponder whether the pursuit of guiding others through transient landscapes was indeed the most prudent choice. That's incredible. Do you see the power here? We took random data from the internet, and then we used an AI to completely transform it, all automatically. And that, right there, is the magic of combining these nodes. You now have the full toolkit: a scheduler, a decision maker, a key to the internet, and an AI brain. With just these tools, you are ready to build some truly amazing things. In our next video, we begin our mega project. We'll combine everything we've learned so far to build an automated content machine. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Welcome to part 3 of our n8n automation series for beginners. You've learned the tools, now let's build a real-world project. In this video, we're building a fully automated AI bot that will create and post content for you on X, helping you build a presence online while you sleep. We'll use 2 nodes you're already familiar with, the Schedule node and the AI Agent node. Then we'll introduce a new one, perfect for posting to X. Alright, first thing we need to do is add a Schedule node. Click Add and search for Schedule, just like we did before. Leave the settings at their default. Let's have it run daily. Next, we'll add an Agent node. Go ahead and add a model to it. Select GPT 4.0 Mini. That should be more than enough for what we're doing here. Next, we need a solid prompt to make sure we generate a good message. For that, you can use ChatGPT or any other large language model. If you have access to our prompt boss, that's a great option. I personally love using it. It's super effective. If you don't have access yet, head over to our free community. Go to the YouTube resources section, click on the post there, and you can access Prompt Boss directly. There's also a training video further down the page where I walk you through how to build it yourself. Basically, you just need to explain exactly what you want the model to do. In this example, I'm giving it a prompt that says, create a prompt for an LLM to generate a short post on X using the provided subject. Then let it work its magic. Since I trained this model using ChatGPT's 4.1 official prompting guide, it's super accurate. It not only gives you the final prompt, but also explains why it chose that specific wording. Definitely keep this in mind. and use it across all your workflows going forward. It really helps streamline the process. And as you can see, there's your prompt. Just copy that and head back to n8n. All right, now open up your agent node. In the drop-down menu, select Define Below, then switch that to Expression. Click on the little icon to expand the editor. It gives you a bit more room to work. Now, just paste your prompt right there. Now, as you can see, we're still missing a subject. You could hard-code it by typing directly where it says Insert your subject here, but that means it'll always generate the same type of content. Later on, you could upgrade this by connecting it to something like a spreadsheet with a list of items or ideas. But for now, let's use a set node, just like we did in the previous tutorial, so I can show you how to plug it in. So go ahead and click out of this, then look between the two nodes. When you hover over that little plus icon, click on it, search for Set Node, and insert it right there. Let's give the set node a value. Call the field Subject and type something like, write a short insight about the most interesting new tool you've seen in AI automation this week. Pop that in there. Now, click out of the set node and head back into the agent node. Then, execute the previous node and drag the subject field into the prompt. There we go. Now hit execute, and let's see what it comes up with. Excellent work. There it is, our shiny new X post, ready to go. All right, the next part's a bit more advanced, but don't worry, we've got this. Start by adding the X node. Click on the plus icon, search for X, and then select Create a Tweet. Now, as you can see, this one needs a credential. No problem. Let me show you how to fetch that from the platform. Head over to the developer portal. I'll drop the link in the description. Click on Start a Free Account. You'll need to fill in a short description about why you want to use the platform. I just used ChatGPT to generate a quick paragraph and pasted it in. Agree to the terms, hit Submit, and boom, you'll land on your developer dashboard. Now click on the little gear icon to open the settings. Scroll down and click the Setup button under User Authentication. Then select Read and Write and Direct Messages, just to be safe. You never know what features you might need down the road. Choose Web App as the app type. Now this is where we'll add our callback URL. So hop back to n8n, copy the callback URL, and paste it right here. We also need to specify a website. If you don't have one, no worries. Just use your n8n instance URL and paste it in there. Then click the Save button and confirm with Yes. Now you'll see your client ID and client secret. Go ahead and copy those over to n8n. Start with the client ID, paste it in, then go back, grab the client secret, and paste that in as well. You'll see a button appear that says Connect to my account. Click on it. A new window will pop up. Just hit OK. And that's it. You've successfully linked and created a credential for X. Remember to give your credential a sensible name, something you'll recognize later. I'm just going to leave mine as is for now. Once that's done, you can close out of the setup. All right, back in your X node. Here's where you select the resource. We want to create a tweet. Then in the text field, just drag in the output from the previous node and drop it in. Easy as that. Now click Execute and watch the magic happen. When I hop over to my X account, yeah, I'll admit, I'm not the biggest X user either, something I should probably fix. But there it is. The post we just created, live and looking good. Perfect. You should be proud of yourself. You've just built a professional tool that actually does something useful. And if you think about it, with just a bit more polish and expansion, this is something you could even sell. Pretty cool, right? You now have a bot building your personal brand on X, automatically. Congrats! You're officially an AI automator. And if you think this is cool, just wait. In the final part of our bootcamp, we're bringing it all together to build the mega project, the automated YouTube content factory. Hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss the grand finale. What if you could turn a single sentence into a fully animated video story, automatically? That's exactly what we're going to build in today's video. Welcome to the final and most advanced part of the n8n Beginners Bootcamp. We're taking everything we've learned about AI, APIs, and automation to build our mega project, a text-to-video pipeline. We'll start with one idea in an Airtable database, and by the end of this video you will have a multi-stage n8n workflow that writes a story, generates images, creates audio, and edits it all together into a final video file. This is the ultimate n8n project. Let's get started. To get you excited about this, let me show you what we're aiming for. We're going to build a workflow that can create videos just like the ones you see on the screen, storytelling videos. The one we're looking at now is in the horror niche. Not exactly my cup of tea, but hey, judging by the views, it's clearly working. Just look at those numbers. Meanwhile, my channel, this one right here, doesn't even come close. I wish it did. And get this, the channel we're looking at only has 8 videos. They started in June, and they've already pulled in these kinds of views and nearly 3,000 subscribers. That's pretty impressive. To kick things off, I always start with a quick sketch. Just a rough plan to make sure I've got all the details I need and a clear idea of what I'm actually building. In this case, we're going to come up with a story idea, then create an agent to write the story for us in the style we want. From there, we'll extract the characters along with their descriptions, then break the story down into individual scenes. Each of those scenes will be used to generate images and audio tracks. Once we have everything, we'll stitch it all together into a final video, and that's basically the workflow. The most important part of all this is the database. We need a solid way to store and manage all this information, and that's true for every workflow we'll build going forward. For that, we're using a tool called Airtable. I've dropped a link in the description below if you want to check it out. When you click the link in the description below this video, you'll land on this page. By using my link, you'll get a free 7-day trial, and if you decide to sign up, the channel gets a small kickback, so it's a win-win for everyone. Just fill out the registration form and you'll receive an email to verify your address. Click the link in that email and follow the steps. Once you're done, you can log in, and that will bring you to this page, your dashboard. Go ahead and close this section. We're not going to use it right now. But as you can see, it does have built-in AI to help you out if you get stuck. For now, this is the part we care about. A blank canvas, where we can start building our database from scratch. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is rename the database. Let's call it Video Stories. Next, I'll rename Table 1 to Stories. Now let's clean things up a bit. Delete these 2 columns, we won't be needing them. And while we're at it, let's get rid of these 2 as well. Let's go ahead and rename this column to Story Title. Alright. We'll need to add a few columns. First up is Story. This will hold the full text of the story, so make sure to set it as a long text field. Next, we'll do the same for Characters, also set to long text. Then we'll add a column for Art Style. And finally, let's move Status to the end. Now let's tidy things up a bit more. Select those 3 empty rows, right-click, and delete them. We don't need them cluttering up our workspace. Alright, now comes the tricky part, connecting this database to n8n. To do that, we'll need an API key, and we'll have to make sure it has the right permissions to read from and write to the database. Here's how to do it. Click on your profile icon at the bottom, then select Builder Hub. On that page, click the Create New Token button. Give your token a name, something easy to recognize. Next, we need to add scopes to the token. Add Read. Next, add Write. And lastly, add Read Schema. Once that's done, click on All Resources. This ensures the token can access all current and future resources in your workspace. Now go ahead and create the token, then copy it. Alright, let's jump over to n8n. Alright, let's start off just like we did in the very first tutorial by adding a trigger. Click the plus button and select Manual Trigger. Next, add a set node. Inside the set node, we'll create two fields. One called Name, which will be the name of our story, and another called Idea, which will hold the story idea itself. This will be my story. Feel free to add anything you like. For name, I will add The Story Weavers. And for idea, a young girl who struggles with reading discovers that when she reads aloud to her elderly neighbor, the stories come to life in their shared imagination, helping both of them find confidence and friendship. Now go ahead and run the test. You should see that we've successfully set up the title and idea fields. Everything's working as expected. Now that we have this information, the next thing is we need to set it into the database. So let's close out of this and go ahead and add an Airtable node. In this case, we want to create a new record, so let's select that option. This is where you'll use the Airtable API key you copied earlier. Click on Create New Credential, then paste your API token into the field. I have already added mine, so I won't do it again, but make sure yours is saved before moving on. Now make sure the resource is set to record, since we want to create a new record. From the base dropdown, you should see your database listed. If your token was connected successfully, select Video Stories from the list. Next, under Table, choose Story. It's the only one for now, but as you add more, they'll show up here. Now, drag in Story Title and map it to the Name field from the set node. Oops, looks like we missed a column. We need to add a Story Idea column. So let's head back to Airtable. Add a new column, name it Story Idea, and set the type to single line text. Once it's created, drag it next to the Story column to keep things nice and organized. You'll notice a little exclamation mark has popped up. Click the refresh icon to update the layout. Once it reloads, drag your idea into the Story Idea field. Let's clean things up by removing the fields we're not using right now. Let's say the art style will be Pixar. Finally, update the status to Do. Click on Execute Step. It ran successfully. Nice. Now hop over to Airtable and there it is. Your record has been inserted into the story table. Don't forget to hit Save on your workflow so you don't lose your progress. Congratulations! You've completed the first part. Nice work! Go ahead and mark that one as done. Next up, we're going to take that story idea and turn it into a full story. For that, we'll need a large language model and an agent to help us bring the idea to life. Let's dive into that next. Alright, just like we did in part 3 of the course. By the way, if you missed it, the video is linked below. We're going to add an agent. So go ahead and add an agent node, then choose your preferred model to power it. Since this is basically the heart of your whole concept, you'll want to pick a solid model. Definitely avoid the smaller ones. In my case, I'm going with GPT-4, but I've also found that Anthropic's Claude Sonnet produces some really beautiful stories. Either one will work great, so choose the one that fits your needs best. Okay, now we need a solid prompt to make this work smoothly. To make it easy for you, I've added the prompt in our school community, under the Classroom section. If you're not already a member, you should really think about joining. There are a ton of benefits. You get full access to all current and future courses and templates I've created, and any new ones I'll be releasing. You'll also get access to the Prometheus server, which is like a creative playground. It's GPU-powered and completely free for community members. You can use it for text-to-speech, video creation, and generating images with different AI models. Honestly, you get way more value than what you pay for. It's definitely worth considering. Alright, back to the course. Go ahead and copy that prompt, and let's head back to n8n. Open up the agent node and make sure the prompt dropdown is set to Define below. Now drag your story idea into the prompt input box. Then click on Add Options and choose System Message. Paste the prompt you just copied into the system message field. Don't hit execute just yet. Click out of the node first. To prevent duplicate records from being added to the database, let's pin the 2 previous nodes. You can do that by selecting each node and pressing P on your keyboard, or by clicking the 3-dot menu and selecting Pin. Once that's done, go ahead and execute the workflow. And there you have it. Our brand new story is ready. Feel free to play around with the prompt. I set it up for a total length of about 10 minutes, but you can tweak that and adjust the content however you like. Next, we need to make sure this story gets saved into the database. So click out of the agent node, and let's add another Airtable node. Not that I also pinned the agent node, it's a great habit that really speeds up development. By keeping your data nodes pinned, you avoid rerunning them every time, which saves loads of time. Once you're done building, you can always unpin them. Now, to add the new Airtable node, the easiest way is to simply copy and paste the one we already set up earlier. Alright, this time we're not adding a new record, we're updating an existing one. So make sure to select Update from the list of operations. You'll notice it asks for a matching column. This is how n8n knows which row to update. For that, we're going to use the ID. Select ID as the matching column, and n8n will take care of the rest. If it does not show, this happens sometimes, then just change this dropdown to Map Automatically and then back to Map each column manually. This will refresh the selections. Now make sure ID is selected. So where do we get this ID from? We grab it from Airtable itself. When we first created the record, Airtable automatically generated a unique ID for that row. All you need to do is expand the Airtable node on the left, find the ID field, and then drag it into the ID column in the Update node. And there you have it. Your record has been successfully updated. Now we've got a full story tied to our original idea, all saved neatly in the database. Perfect. Looking back at our plan, you'll see we've just completed the second step. Our story has been written by the agent. So go ahead and mark that one as done too. Now, let's move on to the next exciting part, generating our characters. First, make sure this node is pinned. Then, select and copy the agent node, drag it across, and connect it to the Airtable node. Now, remove the previous input and instead drag in the story from the node where it was generated. Next, delete the old system prompt, hop back over to our school page, and copy the new prompt we'll use for generating characters. Paste the prompt into the system message box, then make sure to check Require Specific Output Format. Once that's set, go ahead and close out of the node. You'll notice the agent now has a new output parser endpoint. Click on that, and you'll see an option for structured output. Click on the structured output node. Then head back to the community, copy the structured output template, and paste it into this node. What this does is it tells the agent to format the output as JSON, which makes it super easy to use in the next step. Unpin the agent node and go ahead and run it. And there we go. We've now extracted 2 characters from the story, Amelia and Mrs. Pritchard. Each comes with a full character description, which is super important for keeping things consistent during image generation. For example, Amelia has dark brown hair, so we need to make sure she has dark brown hair in every scene and not suddenly show up as a blonde. That's exactly why we do this step. To finish off this step, we need to save the character data into the database. So close out of the current node, then copy the Airtable node once again and connect it to the agent node. Now in this new Airtable node, we need to bring back some of the columns that aren't visible anymore. Click on the 3 dots in the top corner and select All Columns. Delete the fields we're not using for this step. Now drag the character list output from the previous node into this Airtable node. Since we're saving it into the database, it needs to be in string format, so just wrap it with json.stringify to convert it properly. Go ahead and execute the node. And there it is, successfully saved to our Airtable database. All right, the story section is complete. We've got our characters locked in, so go ahead and mark that as done. And let's move on to the next phase. Next, we need a place to store all our individual scenes, so go ahead and click on Add in the Table section, then choose Start from Scratch. Once that's done, rename the table to Scenes. Rename the first column to Scene. Change Notes to Story ID. This way, we can map each scene back to its specific story. Go ahead and delete the assignee and attached columns, but leave status as is. To make this work, we'll need to add a few columns. The first one will be called Script. This will hold the actual dialogue that's going to be spoken. Go ahead and create a new column, name it Script, and set the type to long text. Next, create another column and name it Image Prompt. Just like before, set the type to long text, since we'll be adding detailed prompts for generating images. I like keeping track of individual statuses as we go along. This is a good habit, especially in production. That way, if a workflow fails, and you need to restart it, it can pick up right where it left off, without redoing things like generating images that are already done. In a real-world environment, this can save you, or your clients, a lot of time and money. The easiest way to set this up is by using the existing status column. Just right-click on it, choose Duplicate Field, and then rename the new column to Prompt Status. Now, repeat the same steps. Right-click on the status column again, choose Duplicate Field, and rename this one to Image Status. Then do it one more time and rename the next duplicate to Audio Status. All right, next we'll add 3 special columns to store actual data. These will be attachment columns for things like the image, the audio track, and the final combined media. Let's start with the first one. Click the plus sign to add a new column. Set the type to Attachment and name it Image. Now do the same thing 2 more times. Add a new column, set the type to Attachment, and name the first one Audio. Then repeat the process once more and name the last one Combined. Select and delete any empty rows. Nice. The table is all set and ready to go. Looks like we added something by mistake. Go ahead and delete it. Now we need a new agent to produce the scenes. To keep things simple, just copy the existing one, plug it into our workflow, and open it up. I'm going to pin this one. And unpin the agent. Just a quick way to keep things tidy and focused. Clear out the prompt section and drag the story into the input. Then, select and delete the existing system prompt. Now, head back to the school page. Just a quick note. In this example, I'm extracting scenes that are about 27 seconds long. You can adjust this based on your own needs. Keep in mind, the shorter the scene length, the more images you'll end up generating. Once again, we want a structured output. So click on this node, delete the previous prompt, then head over to the school page, copy the updated prompt, and paste it in here. Now, click on the little execute button to let it do its thing. Once that's done, we'll have a list of scenes ready to go into the database. So let's add a new Airtable node to handle that. Select your database from the list, then choose the Scenes table. Now, here's a new issue we need to handle. We've got 12 scenes, but they're all bundled together in a single array called Output. We want to write them into the database one at a time. To do that, we'll need to use a split node. So go ahead and close out of this, click the plus icon, and search for Split. Now, drag the output array into the Fields to Split Out section and execute the step. This gives us a nice, clean list of individual scenes, perfect for sending to Airtable. And here's a quick tip. To move between nodes without clicking out of them, just use the icons on either side of the display. Go ahead and click on the Airtable icon to jump back. Drag the scene and text items into their respective fields, and delete any fields we're not using for now. To get the story ID, we'll need to pull it from the previous Airtable node, the one where we saved the story elements. Just grab it from there and map it into the current node. All right, let's go ahead and execute this step. And there we go. Success. All the scene descriptions have been added into the relevant rows in the database. Now, for each scene, we've got a script that tells the story. The next step is to start creating the image prompts. All right, here's a fun fact about real-world development. While most tutorials just keep stacking steps in one long chain, that's not really how I work. Instead, I like to split things into clear sections. This way, you can test each part and make sure it works before chaining everything into one giant tangled workflow. So, I'm going to stop here and start a fresh track. Let me show you how to set that up. Here's how I approach it. Each workflow chain I build is designed as if it knows nothing about the one before it. That way, every section is self-contained and easier to manage. So, the first thing we need to do is load the story to get the story ID. Once we have that, we'll use it to load all the related scenes, and then we can start working with each scene individually. Go ahead and add an Airtable node, and let's pull our story back from the database. Since we're using a search query, we need to be specific about what we're looking for. This is a slightly different way of working with data. So here's what we'll do. Define the table name we want to search in, and then set the condition. In this case, we're searching for the story title, where it matches the name of our story. All right, click Execute, and there we go. We've got our story ID. Now that we've got the story ID, the next step is to query the Scenes table and get a list of all the scenes linked to that story. So add another Airtable node, select your database and the Scenes table again. This time, we're going to search for records where the story ID matches the ID we just retrieved. Type in story ID as the field to search on, then switch that value into an expression. Now, drag the ID from the previous node and place it between those two little single quotes, right where it belongs. Once that's set, go ahead and execute it. And there we go, 13 records successfully pulled from the database. Just like before, go ahead and pin these two nodes. We're going to go through the scenes one by one. Now, there is a way to process them all in a batch, but I prefer doing it step by step. That way, if something breaks, we don't have to rerun everything from scratch. You'll see what I mean in just a second. For now, click on Add Node and search for Loop. Leave the batch size set to 1. That just means we're processing one item at a time, nice and simple. Now, the placeholder node in the loop doesn't actually do anything, so let's remove it. Instead, we'll add in an agent node. Just like before, copy one of the previous agent nodes, and then plug it right into this loop. To bring data into the node, we need to execute the loop node first. So click on the little Execute button, then open up the agent node. Once it's open, clear out both the prompt and the system prompt, and head over to our school community to grab the correct prompt from there. Just like before, copy the system prompt and paste it in. Then do the same with the output structure. Copy it and paste it right below. Now let's rename this node. Call it Image Prompt Agent. For the actual prompt, we'll type in something like narrative paragraph and then pull in the script field, since that's the scene we're working with. Next, we want to include the characters. Remember, we stored that in the story table. So go to where we loaded the story, grab the characters, and drop that into the prompt as well. Once everything's set, click on Rename, then hit Execute Step. And there you have it, your first image prompt, successfully generated. Since we're running inside a loop, we only processed one for now. Next, we want to do something with that prompt. Specifically, we want to save it back into Airtable. That way we can mark it as done and avoid regenerating it later. So go ahead and bring in another Airtable node, and this time set it up to perform an update. Let's rename this node to Update Image Prompt. Now connect it to your database and select the correct table. Then, bring in the image prompt from the agent output, and set the prompt status field to Done. Finally, remove any fields you're not using to keep things clean and simple. It's important to tell Airtable exactly which record we want to update, and for that, we need the ID. Remember, when we pulled that list of scenes from the database earlier, we got the ID for each one. After executing the step, you'll see that it successfully updated one record in our Airtable database. Just to clarify, it didn't add a new record, it updated an existing one. Now that we've got a working prompt and it's being injected back into Airtable, it's time to loop through all the scenes. To do that, plug the output from the Airtable node back into the loop node. This creates a continuous loop that processes each scene one by one. Click on Execute Workflow. Now, if you hop over to Airtable and take a look, you'll see the records being populated one at a time. The prompt status is being set to Done, which is great, because if something breaks and we run the workflow again, it'll skip the ones that are already complete. That said, we actually forgot to set up the filter to only process records where the prompt status isn't already marked as done. No worries, we'll fix that in just a minute. Alright, let's do a quick save of our workflow. Always a smart move. As far as I know, n8n still doesn't autosave, though that might have changed, but it's a good habit either way. Now, open up the Airtable node where we're loading the records from the scenes table. Here's how the filtering works in Airtable. It follows a specific convention using AND to combine multiple conditions. So we can have multiple condition X, and condition Y. So for our condition X, let's move this in here. And one more for prompt status. This setup ensures that only the scenes from the current story and with a prompt status of to do are brought in. That way, any scene already marked as done gets skipped automatically. That wraps up the section on creating the image prompt. Nice work! Now, one last thing to clean up. When the loop finishes, the node tries to exit as many times as it processed items, and that's not what we want. If we're plugging this into another section or a follow-up workflow, we only want it to execute once, just a single, clean trigger. To fix that, click the plus sign, search for limit, and add a limit node. Make sure it's set to 1. That way, only one execution will move forward to the next step, no matter how many scenes were processed. For image generation, we're going to use n8n. They've got a pretty solid API for this. If you're part of our ProSchool community, you can skip this and use your access to Prometheus instead, which gives you totally free image generation. So go ahead and swap this part out with the Prometheus API if you've got access. For n8n, you'll find the link down in the description below. Just click it to head over to the n8n website. Once you're there, register for an account, log in, and then look over to the left-hand side. You'll see a section called Imagine API. Go ahead and click into that. Click on Generate API. Give it a name you'll easily remember, and then hit Create. Once that's done, copy the API key. It's the one we'll be using shortly. Just hang on to it for now. You can take a look around their site. They've got tons of models for all kinds of image generation. But for now, let's head back to the home page and find the example QRL request we want to use. Now, exporting it directly as a QRL didn't quite work for me, so we're going to set it up manually. First, disconnect your trigger node. Then, add a HTTP node. Set the method to post, and paste in the API URL. Add a header to your HTTP node. Then copy over the header section from the example. It's actually 2 parts, but we'll copy it as one. Set the name to authorization, and the value should be your bearer token, like this. Next, move down to the body section and make sure it's set to form. Now copy over the form values, prompt, style, and aspect_ratio. We're skipping seed because we want a different image each time. It keeps things fresh. I'm going to mix it up a bit and try using cartoon for the style. Let's see if that works. Though full disclosure, I haven't double-checked the documentation yet. For the aspect ratio, set it to 16:9 since we're generating images for a YouTube video. Let's rename this node to create image and go ahead and test it out. Alright, something went wrong. It's definitely not happy, my guess? It's probably the cartoon style. Looks like that one might not be valid. Another issue. Looks like the API key might be invalid. Chances are it didn't copy correctly the first time. No worries, just go ahead and copy the key again carefully and paste it back into the authorization header. Let's give it another shot. All right, much better. Now we know the image generation is working. With that confirmed, we can go ahead and start plugging it into our workflow and get the automation rolling. To keep things clean and testable, we're going to treat this section just like we did above, as a totally standalone node setup. We'll start by retrieving the story, then load the scenes tied to that story, and finally begin the cycle. This keeps the workflow independent from the rest, so we can build and test it without messing with other sections. Once we're happy with how it runs, we can hook it into the larger flow. To make that easy, just go ahead and copy the two Airtable nodes we used earlier for retrieving the story and its scenes. Let's unpin them. Alright, here's another little roadblock. If you're part of the community using our free Prometheus image generation, you're good to go. But with this current method, we've hit a snag. Airtable doesn't accept images directly. It needs a public URL. The problem is that this image generator gives us the actual image, not a link, as most API endpoints will do. So here's the workaround. We'll create a space on your Google Drive. Upload the image there. Share it with a publicly accessible link. Then drop that URL into Airtable. Don't worry, I'll also show you the Prometheus method, which skips all this and makes life way easier. The reason we're taking this little detour is because I want to show you how to connect n8n to your Google account, specifically Google Drive, but this also opens the door to working with Google Sheets, Gmail, and more. It's a super valuable skill that we'll use often going forward, so think of this as a quick power-up in your automation toolbox. All right, to get started, add a new node and search for Google Drive. Click on Credentials, then select Create New Credential. Now, depending on your setup, this screen might look different. If you're using the official n8n.io cloud service, it's super easy. Just click a button and authenticate. But if you're self-hosting like I am, the process is a bit more hands-on. You'll need to get your client ID and client secret from Google. I'm going to splice in one of my other tutorials to walk you through the setup steps. So if you've already seen this before, feel free to skip ahead to the next section. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your Google credentials so you can connect services like Gmail, Google Drive, and Google Sheets. All right, let's start with Gmail. Open it up, and let's say you want to create a new account. When you're self-hosting, you'll notice you need a client ID and a client secret. I've dropped a link in the description that will take you straight to your Google Cloud account. From there, head into the Google Cloud Console, agree to the terms, and log in. Click on Select a Project, then choose New Project. Give your project a name, anything that makes sense for what you're building, and hit Create. Now click on Select Project, and you'll land on your project dashboard. This is your command center, the place where you manage every aspect of your new Google project. In Google Cloud Console, a project is basically your digital workspace. It's the container that holds all your cloud resources. When you create a project at console.cloud.google.com, you're setting up a dedicated environment with its own billing setup, security controls via IAM permissions, and unique identifiers like a name, ID, and project number. Before you can deploy anything, whether it's virtual machines, databases, or any other cloud service, you need to create and select a project. It keeps everything organized under one umbrella, making it easier to manage, monitor, and control access. In short, it's your starting point for anything in Google Cloud. Next, head over to APIs and Services, then click on OAuth Consent screen. Once you're in there, click Create. What we're doing here is setting up the permissions so that n8n is allowed to access things within your Google environment. Think of it like giving n8n a hall pass. It needs permission to go in and use services like Gmail, Google Sheets, or Drive on your behalf. Next, click on Create OAuth Client and choose Web Application as the type. Give your app a name. Remember, you can have multiple apps within a single project, so name it something recognizable. Now, under Authorized Redirect URIs, click Add URI. This part is crucial. The URL must match exactly what's configured in n8n. So go ahead and copy the redirect URL from n8n and paste it in here. Once that's set, click the Create button again. Great! You should now see your client ID. Go ahead and copy that. Paste it into n8n and click OK. And there it is, your new app. All the apps you create under this project will be listed right here. Click on the app name to open its details. On this page, you'll find the client secret. Copy that, head back to n8n, and paste it in. Head back to Google Cloud and click on Audience. Then select Add Users under the Test Users section. While your app is in testing status, only users listed here will be able to log in. But don't worry, if you're just managing your own account, this is perfectly fine. Just add your email address, click Save, and you're all set. Now, head back over to n8n. Now click on the Sign In button and follow the steps to log in with your Google account. This will authorize n8n to access your Google services. Just confirm the permissions, and you're good to go. We're still missing one important piece of the puzzle. If you notice there's no data coming back, don't worry, we can fix that. Head back to Google Cloud, open the main menu, and under APIs and Services, select Enable APIs and Services. This is where you activate the APIs you want to use with n8n. Search for Gmail, select it, and then click Enable. This gives n8n the green light to start communicating with Gmail. Now let's test it out. Add your email address, a subject line, and some text. Then click Test Step, and there we go. It works. Here's a handy tip. This one used to drive me nuts. To remove that extra text n8n adds to your emails, click on the drop-down next to the Send Email node, find Append n8n Attribution, and turn it off. Clean and professional, just the way we like it. The final thing we need to do is enable the same APIs for Google Drive and Google Sheets. To do that, just click on Enable APIs and Services again. Search for Google Drive, select it, and click Enable. Then do the same for Google Sheets. You can also browse through the list and enable any other APIs you think you'll need, depending on what you plan to do in n8n. Now, we just need to repeat the login steps for Google Drive and Google Sheets, but this time, it's a breeze. And here's a quick tip. Make sure to give your credentials clear, recognizable names. That way you can easily find and reuse them in other workflows without any confusion. And there you have it. Super simple, super easy. I know it seems intimidating at first, but now that you've got that stuff set up, you're good to go. You'll do the exact same thing for different Google nodes. If you come in here and you want to grab Docs or you want to grab Slides, all you have to do once again is go into Cloud and then enable that API in your console. All right, welcome back. Now that you've got your Google credentials set up, go ahead and drag in the Google Drive node and hook it into your workflow. All right, here's the plan. We're going to upload the file, share it publicly, give Airtable a moment to download it, and then we'll delete the file to keep things tidy. Click on Execute Workflow. Okay, we got an error. No big deal. Just disconnect that node for now and run it again. Now, the image gets generated and uploaded to your Google Drive, but at this point, it's still private. Airtable won't be able to access it yet. So next, we'll change the file's permissions. Open the next node, search for the file by its ID, and set the permissions to Reader for anyone. This makes the file publicly accessible via a link, perfect for handing off to Airtable. All right, let's hook up our two initial Airtable nodes again, and go ahead and unpin everything to keep the workspace clean. Now, just to avoid running all 13 images at once, let's add a limit node right before the image flow starts. Click the plus button, search for limit, and set it to 1. This way, we can test the entire flow end-to-end with a single image, nice and safe. All right, before we run this, open up the Airtable node that retrieves the records. Since we copied this node, it's still filtering based on prompt status, but now we want it to filter by image status instead. So update the condition to only include records where image status is set to To-Do. Now, one more thing. We need to make sure those records actually have that status set. That should have been done in the previous step, so while we're at it, let's jump back to that step and update it to also set image status to To-Do. Go ahead and set those manually. All right, let's run it one more time. And still no records? Let's take a look. Ah, there it is. In the database, to-do is one word, but in our condition, we accidentally added a space. Remove that space, try it again, and boom, success. Okay, now let's try running the whole thing. Awesome, everything's working. It's pulling in the records, limiting to 1, generating the image, uploading it, and sharing the link. Perfect. Now let's pin all these nodes to keep track of the flow, and then it's time to add the image to Airtable. So right at the end of the chain, click on Add and bring in another Airtable node set to update a record. All right, first things first. Delete all the fields we're not using right now. The only ones we want to keep are the ID, image, and image status. For the ID, we'll need the image ID, not the story ID. So open the Airtable node where we pulled the images, and you'll see the right ID there. Drag that into the ID field of your update node. Now for the image, this one's a little special. Airtable expects it in a specific format. Let me show you how to structure that correctly. To satisfy Airtable's requirements, the image needs to be formatted as a JSON string like this. So remove the placeholder dots and drag over the web content link from the Google Drive node. the one we use to share the image publicly. That link goes inside the URL field. Once that's in place, Airtable will recognize it as a proper image attachment. When working with pinned nodes, which I highly recommend, just keep in mind that file-related data sometimes doesn't cache properly. That means if you try to run a step independently, it might complain or fail. If that happens, here's a quick fix. Unpin everything from the image node onward, including the 2 Google Drive nodes, then run the workflow again. You don't need to unpin the database nodes, just the parts that handle the image itself. This ensures everything flows smoothly with fresh data. Awesome! Everything ran successfully. And if you take a look in the database, there it is. The image is sitting right there in Airtable, exactly where we want it, and the status is marked as Done. Perfect. Nailed it. Alright, so that's how you bring images into n8n and generate them the paid way. But now, we're taking a detour, especially for my community members, because hey, why pay for image generation if you don't have to, right? So next we're going to bring in the workflow for creating images for free using Prometheus. And the best part? We're basically just going to copy the workflow we already built. Alright, after bringing in the new workflow, go ahead and disconnect the paid workflow, including the whole Google Drive upload section. We won't be needing that anymore. Now, connect your Prometheus-based workflow into place. Since Prometheus returns a ready-to-use URL, you can delete the image output section. And most importantly, don't forget to go into the Set Token node and paste in the token you received when you join the community. That's your key to free image generation. Now here's an enterprise-level tip. This is where we move from just get it done to get it done right. Most YouTube tutorials will show you the quickest, hackiest way to finish a task. Sure, it gets you from A to B fast, but in the real world, especially with production workflows, that approach can backfire. Here's the deal. We're bringing 13 image prompts into this flow, but for a full story, that could easily be hundreds of images. If even one image generation fails, the entire batch could go down. That completely defeats the purpose of having a status track database. So I'm going to show you the advanced and proper way to handle this, using a loop, processing one image at a time, and marking it off as complete as you go. Just like you'd handle tasks in the real world, one by one. With progress you can track and trust. First things first, disconnect the workflow here. Now just like we did earlier, add in a loop node so we can start handling each image prompt one at a time. And while we're at it, let's take a moment to tidy up the layout. Disconnect that temporary node and plug the loop node into the existing workflow. Then, after we save the image and update Airtable, take that output and feed it back into the loop node. This creates a clean, controlled loop that processes each image one by one and marks it off in the database as it goes. Whenever you have a node like the loop node that's getting 2 inputs, one from the Airtable record fetch and another from the feedback loop, it can get confused about which values to use. This is a common issue in more complex n8n workflows. To avoid that, you want to insert a set node right after the bridging node. Use that set node to explicitly define the fields you'll be using inside the loop, like the image prompt and I did. Next, let's jump into the HTTP node that actually makes the call. Right now, it's hard-coded to generate the happy little frog. Cute, but not exactly dynamic. So, switch it to use an expression, then drag in the image prompt from the set node we just added. After that, set the image size you want for your creation. For now, I'm going with 720 by 720. Click on Execute Workflow, and you'll see it now runs through the full cycle, generating the image, checking the status, and just as I expected, it breaks at the Airtable node. So let's dive into that next. Since we copied it, it's still set to look at the Google Drive URL, and that's not what we want. So go ahead and remove that, then drag in the URL from the previous node instead. Then open the set node and drag in the image ID. Let's tidy up the workflow layout a bit more, then run it again and see if it works this time. Okay, once again, it breaks at the Airtable node. So what did we forget? Ah, right, the image URL. Airtable wants it in a specific format, so let's fix that. Okay, that's a lot better. Let's give it another go and see if it works this time. This is how it goes, folks. You try it, it breaks. You fix it and try again. That's the process. Welcome to the glamorous life of workflow building. And there you have it. Success. As you can see, it's now generating the images, inserting them into the database, and even updating the image status to done. Everything's working just the way it should. Just a final reminder. This workflow is designed for the community group to use the free image generator we offer inside the paid group. But if that's not your thing, or you'd rather not join the community, no worries at all. Just remove this section and plug in the part we built earlier. You'll get the same result. The only difference is you'll be paying for the image generation through a separate platform. Now, before we kick this off, just a couple of quick steps. First, head over to the database and set everything back to do. Then, since we want a 16:9 aspect ratio, perfect for YouTube, go ahead and set that. Once that's done, make sure everything is unpinned and you're good to go. Run the workflow. Now everything's running smoothly. The images are being generated, added to the Airtable database, and as you can see, they're popping in one by one. The great thing about this setup is that if something goes wrong and the workflow stops, the next time you run it, it won't redo the images that already worked. It'll only pick up the ones that failed, which saves you a ton of money in the long run. Alright, I paused the video and waited for the images to finish, and as you can see, they're all done. I've got to say, they look pretty good. There's some nice character consistency, and overall, I'm pretty satisfied with the results. Okay, let's update our blueprint. We've completed scene extraction and image generation, so let's mark those as done. Next up on the list, audio generation. Okay, let's tidy things up a bit. As you can see, we've got 3 distinct sections. Let's add a note to each one so we can easily identify them. The first section is the story writer, the second is the prompt extractor, and the third is the image builder. These things I'm adding now are called notes. They're mainly used to highlight and organize different sections of your workflow. You can style them a bit. Just click on the Style button to change the background color. And if you double-click on a note, you can open it up and edit the text. It's super helpful, especially when you're working with large workflows. It makes everything easier to visualize and manage. Just double-click on one, like I'm doing here, and it uses Markdown. If you're not familiar with Markdown, no worries. You can Google it or just ask GPT. It lets you add some pretty sleek notes and descriptions. To change the color, just click on the little palette icon and pick the one you like. Easy as that. Now let's go ahead and move these around a bit. And as always, remember to save your work. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for the audio tracks. And just like before, I'll show you two methods, one for non-community members and one for community members who get access to free audio, free text-to-speech. Let's start with the paid option first. For this, we're going to use OpenAI. Back in Lesson 3 of this series, I showed you how to get your API key, so we're building on that. Head over to the Text-to-Speech section in OpenAI, and it'll bring you to the relevant page. Scroll down a bit, and you'll see the method we'll be using. Copy that curl command, then open up the HTTP node in n8n, click on the Import Curl section, paste it in there, and hit Import. It's a quick and easy way to bring in an HTTP request using curl. Just replace this placeholder with your actual token, the one you got in the previous lesson. When I have to repeat similar tasks, I don't start from scratch every time. It's just not efficient. So now, since what we're doing is almost identical to the image workflow, we're going to save a bunch of time by copying that whole workflow and simply replacing the nodes that are different. I'm going to move the Prometheus workflow off to the side for now. We'll bring it back in a minute to go over that part. Right now, we're just focusing on plugging in the OpenAI HTTP node. All right, let's plug the trigger node back in and add a limit node. Just to be safe and avoid wasting tokens, we only want to run it once to test if everything's working. Okay, let's execute it. 0 records returned. That's because we're still checking the image status instead of the audio status. Let me double check. Yep, we need to change that to audio. Let's update it and try again. Still no records. Looks like we found another bug. Turns out we didn't set the default values, so now we have to manually update them to do. All right, while we're at it, let's go ahead and fix the bug so it doesn't happen next time. When we create a story, we should make sure these values are set to do by default. That way, we won't have to set them manually every time we run it. There we go. Now the next time we run a story, the image columns will be set automatically, no more manual fixes. And that, my friends, is the magic of debugging. All right, let's run it again. It's generating the audio. Great. Now, if we open it up, you'll see we're hitting the same issue as before with the image. The speech engine gives us an actual data file, not a URL, and Airtable wants a URL. So time to bring back our old trick with Google Drive. All right, let's add a Google Drive node and select the Upload File option. Just a heads up, the file coming in from the service provider is already named speech.mp3, so make sure to enter that in the input data field name. Then, for the file name you're uploading to Google Drive, use something generic like temp.mp3. Alright, as you can see, the file has been successfully uploaded to your Google Drive. Now, add one more Google Drive node, make sure it's the Share File node. Set it to Share by ID, drag in the file ID. Set the role to Reader and the type to Anyone. Perfect. Now you're all set to run it again. Open up the Airtable node and drag in the new file ID. Then, update the image field to use the web content link from Google Drive. Alright, let's run the workflow and see it in action. That worked nicely. The database was updated. But oops, we were actually updating the image field instead of the audio field. So let's fix that. Go back and change it to update the audio field instead. I'm just adding all the columns back in. Just to be safe, you could also click the Add Column to Send button at the bottom, but I prefer doing it this way. It's easier to delete the ones you don't end up using. And while we're at it, let's set the audio status to Done so we don't forget later. There we go, much better. The audio status is now correctly set to Done, and the audio file is showing up in the right column where it's supposed to be. The only thing left to do now is remove the limit node, so it doesn't restrict the number of images or audio tracks being created. Once that's done, you can go ahead and run the full workflow. But that's where we'll wrap up this part. I'm going to remove the audio generation section and paste our Prometheus workflow back in, just like we did earlier. Alright, I'm just plugging our community workflow back in. Oops, not that output, the other one. There we go. Let's move things around a bit to keep it tidy. Now, head into the node and update it, since this isn't image generation anymore. We need to change it to TTS, text-to-speech. Let's remove the old prompt we used for image generation and replace it with the one for audio generation. That way, everything's aligned with the new TTS setup. Now go ahead and drag in the script you want to convert to speech. This will be the input for our TTS process. Now, for the status check and fetch nodes, all we need to do is update the URLs to point to TTS. No other changes needed. Simple as that. For the first run, I'll add a limit node, just to be safe and make sure we don't mess anything up. Ah, right, one last thing. The Airtable node is still pointing to the Google Drive node. We need to update that so it pulls from the new TTS flow instead. Let's fix that real quick. To speed things up, I'll pin these two nodes. Then we'll run the workflow again. Let's see it in action. Nice. Everything's updating properly now. Looks like it's all working smoothly. Go ahead and remove the limit node. Then run the workflow to generate all the audio tracks. That worked perfectly. Our tracks are now saved to the database. Since only those 3 were set to do, they were the ones created. Now let's manually set the rest and run the workflow again. And that's the beauty of setting it up this way. If something goes wrong, we can just pick up right where we left off. No need to rerun everything from scratch. All right, I'll pause here and come back once everything is done. All the audio tracks are done. Great! Now let's fix that image we accidentally set to do and run the image workflow one more time. And this is exactly why I do it this way, because I can rerun the entire image workflow with confidence, knowing it won't repeat steps or burn through all my tokens. It's only going to pick up the one marked as to do. That's how we roll in a proper production setup. Nice! All the images and audio tracks are ready. Now let's go ahead and merge them together. Let's clean everything up and label this section as audio tracks. Let's update our plan. We've successfully completed the section for generating audio tracks, so I'll mark that as done. Next, we need to combine each image with its corresponding audio to make sure the image stays on screen for the full duration of the audio. And with this, I'll show you 2 ways to do it, but we'll mainly focus on the method that's free and available to everyone in the community. Let's copy the Airtable nodes again, so we can load all the scenes for the story. After that, we'll add a loop node to process each row one at a time. Click on the plus icon, search for loop, and add the loop node. Once it's in, just make sure it's set to run once. As usual, let's add a limit node to run just one item while we're still testing. Once that's in place, go ahead and execute the workflow. As you can see, it pulls in a list of items from the database, and now we've got direct access to both the image URL and the audio track URL. Those are what we'll be using next. Alright, merging the audio and video turned out to be a bit tricky. I searched everywhere for free tools, but honestly, I couldn't find much. The one that keeps popping up is JSON to video. It's pretty popular for combining media, but honestly, I'm not even going to consider it here. It's pricey, and for that kind of cost, you might as well join our community. You'll get image generation, audio, video, one-on-one support, and more, all bundled in. Now, the other alternative I found for you is ShotStack. It's a bit cheaper and works on a credit system, but still, at about 3 cents per minute of video, it adds up fast. That's the one I'll walk you through using. Just head over to their API section, grab your API key, and then in the API playground, just like I showed you earlier, copy the payload and paste it in. But here's the better part. I'll also show you the method that's totally free inside our community. If you don't want to join, that's totally fine. Then you'll need to use one of these paid options. And if you happen to know of any free tools that can do this, drop a comment below. I'd love to check it out and maybe include it in a future update. Let's go ahead and copy one of the previous workflows. When I built this system and wrote all the code, I made sure everything followed the same structure so it's easy to repeat. Basically, just copy the workflow, change the endpoint, and you're good to go. The name of this endpoint is Combine Audio Video, so just replace TTS with that. And then scroll down to the body section and change the body section for this. Now from the loop node, and make sure it's the loop node, find the image and drag over the image URL. Next, locate the audio URL and drag that across as well. Next, make sure to update the status and the fetch node with the correct endpoint too. And before I forget, let me update the Airtable node to make sure we're placing it in the right table and updating the correct column with the status set to Done. We want to put the final video inside of the combined column and update the status to Done so that we know that the whole row is now complete. And before I forget, let me update the Airtable node to make sure we're placing it in the right table and updating the correct column with the status set to Done. We want to put the final video inside of the combined column and update the status to Done so that we know that the whole row is now complete. To get the link to update the Airtable node, we need to execute the workflow. You'll notice it takes a bit of time. This is a heavy lifting process with a lot happening behind the scenes. But that's the beauty of automation. We can kick it off and then go do something else while it runs. Remove the ID field. Then click on Add Column to Send and look for Combined. Once you've got that, drag in the URL from the previous node. Delete the audio and audio status fields, then add a new field called Status and set it to Do. Now we need to find the record ID we want to update. Remember, we stored it in the Set node. It's still labeled as Image ID. Yeah, we could tidy that up, but honestly, it doesn't make a big difference. We know what it is. These are things I can clean up later. Okay, go ahead and click on Execute Workflow again to run it one more time. Another error. Let's see what went wrong. Of course. I forgot about Airtable's special format again. We need to wrap it in an array. No problem. Let's just copy the format from the previous node and drop it in here. Let's drag the URL back in and run it once more to see if it works this time. Okay, great. It looks like it saved successfully. Let's hop over to the table and take a look. Yep, there it is. Although I do see one small issue. The status is still set to do. Let's fix that in the Airtable node. Adjust the value and run it one last time. That's more like it. Let's take a look and see how it turned out.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe for more enchanting tales. See you next time!
Okay, now you can go back. We know it's working. Go ahead and remove the limit node, then run the workflow again. Just a heads up. This one's going to take a while. Alright, I paused the video, grabbed a cup of coffee, and now it's all done. Now, what I usually do at this point, because I like a bit of hands-on control, is download the clips, stitch them together, and add some animation manually. You could drop them into another workflow to automatically merge them into one video, but honestly, the quality I've seen from those tools online isn't great. But if that's something you'd like to see, and you want me to build a workflow that does it for you, just drop a comment below. If I get 10 people asking for it, that's my green light. I'll go ahead and make it happen. Alright, to wrap things up, let me show you how I pull all of this together into one mega workflow. Let's disconnect our trigger node and plug it into the first step, where we create the story. From here, after creating the story and saving it to the database, we connect it to the prompt generation workflow. Next, make sure there's a limit node at the exit point of the prompt generation workflow, and then plug that into the build images workflow. Then, at the exit point of the images workflow, take that and plug it into the audio track workflow. After that, just go back and add a limit node there too. We only want it to trigger once. Now finally, click on the little brush icon that'll auto-arrange everything nicely on the screen for you. And most importantly, don't forget to save your work. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing for more content like this. See you in the next one.